back live at Viewpoint. The studios here in Lazy Row here in Atlanta, Illinois. Our guest this morning is Richard Martin, farm friend of mine and farm friend of many people here in Logan County. He and his wife, Mary Ellen. And we've brought Richard in this morning because we think he's representative of the farm community and the importance of the farm community to Logan County, not just for the fact that there are farms out there, but it's a great economic impact into Lincoln, Illinois. I read also, Richard, where that apropos of the end product of your work, that I want to get back to this GPS business too, that I understand that they have about 950 food processing plants alone here in the state of Illinois, processing your end product into foodstuffs. And so when you go to the grocery store, those things just didn't happen to jump in those boxes. They didn't jump from Richard Martin's field or Glenn McRae's field or wherever and get in there. There's a lot of middle people in there. So that's a huge impact. Huge impact. Go ahead, sir.
Well, back in 1980, we got 31 cents, according to the statistics I read, 31 cents of that dollar. Today, we only get 19 cents of that dollar, and the rest of it goes to processing and transportation and everything else that's
all
involved.
The ancillary costs.
So we're getting a little bit less all the time, but that's the reason you have to have more acres and more farm.
You have to make up for it.
To cover the expenses of.
We were before the break. We started to talk about the techniques of farming and so forth, and we were talking about application of fertilizers and the need for that, or the need to not put it on certain areas. Would you relate, for the benefit of those who might not be familiar with farming techniques at all, how you determine how much application of this fertilizer or that fertilizer you do on your, not only your farm but other farms throughout the county?
Well, there's a maintenance program that we apply that is based from the University of Illinois' figures, and that's what we usually put down. There's and with the strip till, we put some of that fertilizer right in that row, underneath that row that we're going to plant on. And I feel that you can even get by with less because you're not covering the whole gamut of the farm, the acreage that way. You're just fertilizing that crop. But I don't want to be quoted as saying you can cut back that much. But we do put the fertilizer underneath the strip till row. And back to the GPS part now, this even makes this a lot easier, because now if you get RTK, which is the best part of the GPS system, which is supposed to guarantee you a 1-inch variance, 5 years from now I can go back and plant within 1 inch of where I was 5 years ago. I can stay on that strip, I can maintain that strip, I can and rely that the fertilizer is right there. And that's another asset to the GPS. The space program, I really hate it that we're not NASA, we're not still in that like we should be, because now here we are. We used to race with the Russians, and now we're riding with them. And but anyway, there was so much technology that came from that space program. And back,
look at your cell phones.
And we started mapping years ago, back in the 90s there, and the combine would take, you could set it to do whatever you wanted, but it would take a moisture check and it would take a yield check. It had to be calibrated, of course, but as you went through the field and print it all out, and you could see the difference in soil types and how it performed, and kind of base your fertilizer needs on that information. And then we got getting the GPS and the auto steer. And it's hard for me to drive a tractor anymore by myself. I got used to this auto steer, and it is really, you can turn around and you can see your implement behind you on what's going on back there, and you just don't want to go to sleep, that's all. But it does warn you that. But anyway. There
are people out there that don't realize that due to GPS, you can actually take your hands off the wheel of the tractor.
You have to.
You have to do that.
Because as soon as you touch the wheel, it'll quit.
So, in essence, for the folks out there who don't understand it and realize it, that tractor will steer itself through the GPS, Global Positioning Satellite.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the farmers that have the GPS by the straightness of their row, and more and more farmers every year is getting it, and it's just a norm now. You know, back in the 60s, I was one of the first people to have a cab on my tractor. Bought from R&H, a Femco cab on a 4020, and everybody thought I was crazy, you know. But boy, you look today, you know, everybody's got cabs. You know, you don't even think about farming without a cab.
And air conditioned.
Yeah, it don't take you long to get used to Mother Nature when you're out there without a cab anymore. But that's how things have progressed, and the GPS has really been an asset, especially if you're in strip tilling and keeping everything in perspective to where the row is and so forth, and where the fertilizer is and all.
Well, for Joe and Josephine Smith, who are driving down the road to Burton View and they see these combines out there, it might be of interest to them to understand that you sit there in that air conditioning cab, and you have equipment in these combines, the farmers do today, that can tell you exactly how many bushel to the acre you're getting in all the different parts of the field. So therein you know that you apply less or more fertilizer back in those areas which don't yield as much.
Well, there's a thing with soil types. You know, some soil types will perform better than others. There's no question about that. And you have a lot of variance in Logan County in soil types going through the field. You know, you can heavy drummer down in the bottomland and up to sand on top of a hill. You know, and you need to, and there's you need to fertilize somewhat. There's a VRT system that I have not used, but which variable rate, and they base the amount of fertilizer that they spread to the soil type and to your yield maps, and the applicator will vary the rate as it goes through the field, which is kind of unique. And
you have to be as much technologist as you are agronomist.
Well, that's
don't
right.
you?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this is pretty sophisticated business. 648-5510. If anybody might have any comments or questions of Richard Martin, representing the farmers in Logan County, farming being such an important part of our economy here. 648-5510. Or if somebody wants to call him, tell him he didn't know what the heck he's doing, he'll take that. That's all right.
That could be.
But I'll argue the point with him anyway. It's been amazing to see the technology, and of course, in many ways, from a comfort factor, from a creature comfort factor.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah, it definitely can. You can do more hours in a day if you're not driving that tractor yourself and trying to keep that straight row and concentrating on that. You can concentrate on other things. You know,
I thought the day would never end for me when my grandfather put me on that plow. You know, as soon as we can get out, the sun's up in the morning, and we plowed time to go home in the dark at night.
Yeah.
And then when my kids say, "Well, what'd you get paid?"
Yeah.
Go ahead. You said something you were going to comment.
Well, Judy mentioned some of the highlights. Supposed to one of the, you know, back in the 60s, things was pretty even there. Everything went pretty good along, stayed about the same until '79 when Jimmy Carter put the Russian embargo on our commodities, and that took us a few years to get over that. And then in '95 we started getting technology, and in the '80s there my son came into the operation with me, and we get along good together. We've always had a lot of fun farming together, and that's been a real asset. That's really a joy. And one of the highlights now is my grandson, Larry's son, has came into the operation last fall, and so and he's working out very well. And so I'm kind of the go-getter now. You know, I go get them what they need. I hand them the tools when they're working on something, and I kind of enjoy that.
Well, all right.
That's some of the highlights that's came about in this operation.
And we have a son, I say proudly, My son Jeff is a part of your operation
Yes.
a great deal of time during the course of the year. 2 jobs. He's running a job at one job, and then he goes out and helps Richard at Burton View. It's a good way of life. It's not as physically demanding as it used to be as far as having. A lot of livestock has just disappeared off farmsteads today.
That's right.
It was very common on most farms
In our area, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, here to see even sheep, a lot of pigs, or in some cases just enough cattle for farm sustenance.
Sure.
Right there on their own farm, and they did their own processing. EPA, I'm sure, would not particularly approve of the butchering that was done on farmsteads.
Right.
But there again, that's a good example. It didn't kill anybody, and it's a good example of too much government sticking their nose in everybody else's business. That's another. That would be a subject for a whole week's conversation, Judith Kay.
Well, why don't we just use 2 minutes, since we don't have a week to sit here, and talk about, generally speaking, as you visit with other farm people, what do they feel about the help that the government gives you all the time?
Well, we've been through several different types of programs all these years.
Sure.
Some of them have been okay. I've never been a big component. Of course, we've always... some of the programs were good, I'll put it that way. But some of them were not, I don't think. But back to as far as the programs go, what's really the problem in farming today is the marketing. We're in such a world market.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
China, they seem to affect our market an awful lot, but yet they're not one of our big components as far as imports or exports to China, but yet anything they do seem like affects our markets considerably. And when you're dealing with a world market, it's just a guessing game. It really is, because anything could happen worldwide, just like Greece right now. That's affecting our market, and it can affect the whole economy and everything. It's really tough to be a marketing specialist right now.
Now, tell, for the benefit of those who might not understand, your corn crop that you're going to take off the field this fall, ultimately it's going to go obviously to an elevator or perhaps on-farm storage, and at the time then it's finally marketed and sold. Tell us what will happen to this bushel of corn. It's going to go from your farm to...
Some of it goes to Havana, or it goes to exports to the river terminal.
And they go there because it's the Illinois River.
Yes, some of it goes to Pekin, to ethanol plants. Some of it goes to ADM for processing as well as ethanol. And whoever's bidding the markets usually is where it ended up going. And that determines the destination of it mainly. But we have several outlets in this, and the basis is fairly decent right now. Well, it's really good in corn right now, in old crop corn, but being able to go to different markets is an asset here in our community. It really is.
But there's a technique also. It's not only getting the crop in the field and then harvested and out of the field. Then there's a matter of how you market your product, what you have to sell.
Right.
And you just don't go pick up the phone and say, well, I want to sell 1,000 bushel of corn. That 1,000 bushel of corn has probably been pre-sold at a certain price long before then. And then it comes time you have to deliver for whatever the amount you sold. So there's a real science, not a by guessing by golly science, to marketing your grain to get the maximum income.
Yes, right. That's right.
It says in some of this information that we have that, other than yourself, of course, that most Illinois farmers are more than 50 years old. Well, it's because the son comes in and then the grandson, just like you were talking about.
I think that's always...
Of course, you're not 50
I think that's always... You're right. I think that's always been the case. The farm families, 57 has always been an average age for the farm community, even years back. It's always been that way, you know. Farmers never retire.
No, they don't, and they don't have to, because they own their own business. So if you decide to be a CB&F farmer next year, you can figure out a way that you could go to Florida for a couple, 3 months, but then you can come back in the spring and be plenty busy doing the farm work that you love.
And there's another factor.
We call that a gentleman farmer.
Yeah, but that's a nice Benny. Really. That you don't have to retire, because for some people, retirement's not such a hot prospect. You know. Yeah.
The old story is not to retire. To what do you retire?
Yeah.
The big thing about it is, on today, farming, quote, the good old days, was tough physically. And men and ladies too, because they worked, a lot of those worked pretty hard on the farm, doing other types of chores on the farm, big gardens and stuff. But farming, of itself in those days, was physically more demanding, and we got older more quickly because of the physical demands on our bodies.
Sure, that's right.
And today, now you see, look what a strapping, good-looking young kid this is, because he doesn't have to work like that. He's got this.
Yeah, we work in a golf game once in a while with our landlord, even once in a while.
Yes, and that's going to, we don't talk about that, by the way. Well, Richard, we appreciate it. You didn't show what we were getting into and talk to you about coming on the air this morning, but it just occurred to me that you would represent the average farm in Logan County as far as techniques and so forth, not particularly the size of acreage or anything like that, but how farming has changed, mostly for the better, certainly creature comforts as far as the actual farming is concerned. We've appreciated your giving us your time, and we kind of just say that you would be representative of the farmers in Logan County. You have a closing comment before I pop in with the closing comment here?
Well, being a farming family here, our daughter married Clark Oldman, who's a farmer as well. They have their own operation, and they're doing quite well with their operation, and we have a lot of fun comparing notes and things once in a while, and that too. And so my whole family's in the farming game, that's for certain. Yes, and
well, it's a good thing for you, right? And the county, right? Yes. Well, we always try to close with a quote. Hopefully, that's apropos to the subject matter of the day. And I found this one. I'm not sure that I think it's pretty apropos, and it says, "To plow is to pray, to plant is to prophesy, and the harvest answers and fulfills." Thank you, Richard Martin, for Viewpoint.